welcome to the Heavy Breathing Heathens
And with
Macabrecast.
Welcome to Heavy Breathing Heathens.
Oh, man. I am one of your hosts, Casey Ross. To my left, we have the great
Christian Hart.
And across the table from me in the studio today, with all of us in one room, we have right here
Rookery T. What's up, man? What's going on?
Rookie T.
Rookery T. Well, no, I should explain. Rookery T is if
Booker
I've
T.
decided that if I am ever going to be published, that will just be my pen name because the T is actually a rather cumbersome and pretentious surname. It works for Facebook, but I'd like to be a little punchier than that for the publishers, you know. So if I ever do publish any writing, it'll just be Rookery T, you know. And
What
it's
kind
just
of writing would this be if you were to get it published? Would it be like the effects of lambskin condoms?
Well, I'm sure that some really great informational stuff can be done there.
Like it'd be, this is
Right
more of like
now,
a medical.
right now, I seem to be still muddling around with verse novel poetry. Like I'm approaching narrative writing about people, but I'm not the most responsible writer. So going back much later and doing dialogue and setting, it becomes problematic. So
I could only imagine your work being somewhere along the lines of George R. R. Martin mixed with Hunter S. Thompson and Charles Bukowski. Like that's
No, see, okay, and to that I would specifically answer, no, there is no way I have the narrative talent for George R. R. Martin. I haven't even read his stuff because I know that he's a very complex narrative writer. Charles Bukowski, I've heard of. Haven't read his stuff
Really?
yet. I have not read his stuff,
Man,
but
you can get his books. I was listening to Ham on Rye, but it's all on YouTube.
I have read excerpts of his and little bits of poetry by Bukowski, and I do really like his voice. He's on my list to look into.
Yeah.
Thompson, I've read a little bit of, but like I was saying a few minutes ago, Thompson, I adore him, but I can't be Thompson because I don't have the research skills even to be him. Like, you have to respect the drugs Thompson did in his lifetime because his writing is all incredibly factual and well researched. And it's like, dude, when do you trip and how do you do this kind of research when your brain is somewhere else? I can't even imagine.
Funny little side story before we get into this. Last time I was in jail, I spent New Year's Eve and New Year's Day in jail. I can't remember how many years ago. It was just like maybe 2 or 3 years ago. And when I was in there, I was able to bring in some books, and one of them was Fear and Loathing in America, which was all the collective letters that were sent to and sent from Hunter S. Thompson in his lifetime, and a lot of them was just stuff that was never published and just random rants of him in just a speed fueled.
Hey, we found some other stuff he wrote down. Anybody want it?
yeah, and I mean, this thing was like 2.5 inches thick. I'm not even lying, Chris. Seriously, and I brought that in, and I did not leave with it because there was a lot of big crazy loudmouth men that were in there for murder. Right. And when they asked me what I was reading, I went into deep, anybody asked me about Hunter S. Thompson, I could go on for hours about it. This guy was so enthused by what I was talking about, and he's like, but all he cared was like, you telling me this dude writes about doing drugs? Like, yeah, dude. Yeah, like that's like 90% of it. He's like, you gonna leave with that book?
Yeah.
You can have it right now, sir.
Sure.
Yes,
no,
Onyx,
this is yours. I brought it for you.
Absolutely. Yeah. I heard you were here.
Yeah.
I saw you.
So my writing. No, writing is not something that I am nearly as disciplined or consistent about as even like my Bradbury, one of my all-time favorite writers, Ray Bradbury. He said, if you're going to write, you have to write every day. It doesn't matter what it is. You can shit around the house all day and write nothing of any worth but write.
read something.
So it's not something that I'm doing and that's part of the reason for the whole change that's going on for me is that no, I don't have time to devote as a discipline to writing, because you do have to get into it and you got to be serious.
Oh, absolutely.
And the routine that I'm in right now is very tedious and frequent. So,
well, your process, whatever you have, is a lot better than mine, because you like with what we're able to do with this podcast. I go off and I spend hours, probably almost like collectively probably 24 hours in 2 weeks to go off and of research put into this stuff. And the little stuff that I retain is something that you were able to pick up and do within like a half hour shit, you know?
Well, and one of the reasons that I think I'm a poor researcher is because my phone is all I've got. I used to have
same with me, man.
I used to have a tower. I used to have a desktop, and I like them. They're comfortable to research on. My phone is cool, and there is a lot of stuff I do on it from time to time, but I am a technological Luddite. Yeah, I hate technology.
I'm the same.
I want the meteor to come and destroy everything.
I
don't
wait to
care.
Go raiding into half or dilapidated homes. I can't wait for the fallout reality.
I can't.
You know, me and Christian here are preparing for that. Hardcore.
I would love it if the entire human race had to start over without any technology. That would be great, you know. So yeah, I tend to not use my phone because phones, they surprise me by being different than using a desktop, and it's harder to find the same options and to figure out how to do the same stuff, and then I want to run over it. So and I can't do that because they're expensive. So you know.
Well, this week.
So yeah, so my writing tends to be shorter and more visceral and more impressionistic, which is okay because I like a lot of the imagist poets and writers, William Carlos Williams and Ezra Pound was great for that. He wrote some of the great imagist poetry.
One of my favorite imagist posts is by a doctor. I can't remember his last name, but Dr. Seuss, and he had great illustrations that went along with his poetry.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, imagism in the form like the famous Ezra Pound poem.
Oh yeah, I know.
Is only 2 lines long, and it's the one waiting for a train in some station. It's got this long title, "Waiting for a train in South Park Station," whatever. But the poem itself is these faces in the crowd, petals on a wet black bough. So he's just telling you that watching faces appear out of the crowd in this busy train station reminds him of white flower petals on a wet black tree limb.
Oh, wow.
And so imagism is the art of,
I get you.
You strip down to where there isn't a single word that doesn't contribute to one single image that you're trying to draw.
To get across. Yeah.
So that's, you know what, in my routine, that's what I have time for, is to be passionate and use a lot of this purple prose and poetry. So I like to play with words. I work with that, and it's poetry and some short stories right now. That's what I generally write so far.
That's still pretty cool.
Haven't been, published anywhere of note, but
we might actually be able to publish you through the podcast.
Right.
And if anybody's interested in that later on down the line, maybe you can give us some information on how we can possibly get these writings to you, because that would be pretty damn cool.
Yeah, well, and I'm sure there'll be a way, because I'm going to become a road gypsy, a land pirate for a while.
You're gonna be updating us on those too through the
right.
Through
Yeah, I'll be anywhere. I could radio in, be the man in the wilderness. Definitely.
I have an inside review, not really review. I get mixed up on my words. I have an inside source on sourcing out publishing companies. My mother is a professional publisher. She has her own publishing company.
Oh, nice.
And what we could do is part of HBH Networks is we could have HBH Publishing Company.
HBH. That's I like that.
Be cool with HBH content.
No, we have our own publishing company.
Oh, right on.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Awesome.
Yeah, she can basically learn me on all the stuff on how to do it, what to run, and
Right.
all the editing
Right.
and stuff.
So, Christian, while we have you here, why don't you tell us about some stuff that happened to you this week? You got anything interesting?
Honestly, man, not really. Nothing really.
Fuck yeah.
Nothing really too interesting. I guess that.
Keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah, that's
we use the KISS method on the Heavy Breathing Heathens podcast.
Yeah,
Keep it simple, stupid.
You know, nothing really crazy. It was a good week. You know, had my daughter last weekend, and I can't really complain. So,
Right on. Yep. Right on. Actually, we tried to record last weekend, and that didn't really work out too well because we were so focused on bringing this episode to you. Today, we are going to be bringing you brutal and gruesome tales and lore of the Viking era.
Yeah, the Viking era, or what I have here is actually more Scandinavian, but there are reasons I picked these out. So I go looking for Norse folk tales, and among the first things that come up are these sites that have. I immediately clicked on 10 most disturbing tales from Scandinavia because I know any culture that can produce a fish that is wrapped and marinated in shark urine for 6 months before they eat it. This is a people that do not fuck around in the wintertime, okay? And they come up with some weird, dark stories, okay? So I look into these disturbing Scandinavian folk tales. I'm sold on the title, on the headline. So the first thing that comes up is it's a double bonus. So it's this disturbing, dark Scandinavian folk tale that actually is a throwback to our last episode. So last episode, if you remember, I come in talking about the history of the jack-o'-lantern and how it involves this character Jack who outsmarts the devil. And why would the devil, the immortal, powerful, metaphysically supernatural being that we know, Lord of all evil, why would he be this abysmally stupid? So this first story I get from Scandinavia is about the woman who outsmarted the devil, or the woman that even the devil would refuse to fuck with. Okay, is this woman. Her name was Kitta Grau.
Kitta Grau.
Kitta Grau. And the evil one and Kitta Grau. So apparently she is this amazingly dark and wily temptress or whatever.
Sounds like one.
So
Kitta
it says,
Grau.
one day the devil met Kitta Grau. Where have you been, old man? Asked Kitta Grau, for she recognized him. So you got to figure the devil's not traipsing across the earth in horns and hooves all the time, right? No. Like now, back in these days, the forests were dark
and handsome, dangling.
Well, the forests are dark and deep, and nobody goes back in there. And sure, the devil could be running around swinging, with his horns out and whatever. But you got to figure he's walking around with some clothes on or something, looking like something more human. How does this woman always recognize the devil, right? She recognized him.
The tattoo they got together in spring break.
So yeah, this is introduced as Kitta Grau is so clever or wily or whatever. She recognized the devil. Well, said the evil one, I have been out on the farmstead where the newly wedded couple live. This is the third time I have tried to sow dissension between them. But they think so much of each other that it is a sheer impossibility. You look like a real fool. That is something I could bring about the very first time I went there, said Kitta Grau. If you can do that, you shall have a splendid pair of shoes, was the evil one's reply. So this is medieval Scandinavia, but the women are still all about the shoes, right? Apparently. Okay, so Mind you, keep your word, said Kidda, which is her way of, you got it. It's a bet. Bet. I'll be back. Hold my beer. Okay, that's what Kidda's. She turned toward the farmstead. There, the wife was home alone, for her husband had gone to the forest. Kidda said to the young wife, "You have a really splendid husband." "And that is the truth," the woman replied, "for he grants my every wish before it is spoken."
Huh?
"But take my word for it," said Kidda, "there is still a bit of deceit in him. He has a pair of long hairs under his chin. If you could get at them, if you could get at them with a razor and cut them off while he is asleep, then he would be altogether without malice."
Bitch, I would fucking cut you.
So here we have
serious Samson type.
Here we have this curious complexity I was talking about before with these Scandinavians. For some reason, there's this myth, and I don't know how they felt about full beards, mind you, but they're saying.
Now watch what you say about full beards here.
Right. I don't know. I don't know if the Scandinavians really liked full beards or what. They must have. Vikings had full beards.
Yeah.
But here is this, apparently, if the guy has two long hairs under his chin, like two wild-ass hairs, he's evil. And you must cut them off, and then he will be a little lamb for you, right?
Oh.
So, okay. So, well, said the wife, if that will help, I will be sure to keep an eye open after dinner and attend to it, for then he always takes a little noonday nap. So the husband comes home. Or no, excuse me. Kidda Grau goes from the house and the wife out to the forest to the husband and bade him good day. "You have a really good wife," said Kidda. "She could not be bettered," said the husband. "Well, you might be mistaken for all that," said Kidda. "When you come home, be on your guard, for when you go to take your noonday nap, she has in mind to cut your throat, so be sure not to go to sleep." The husband did not think much of the matter, but still he thanked Kidda Grau for her trouble. "Thanks for coming by. Right. She's going to slit my throat at noonday here, so, but that's awful nice of you."
Yeah.
So then the husband goes home and eats his dinner. He laid down and pretended to fall asleep at once. Thereupon his wife went to his shaving kit, took out his razor, went softly up to him and
they
took
had shaving kits this time?
A straight razor and a leather strop, you betcha. Jesus. You betcha, don't you know?
Oh, don't you know?
And went softly up to him and took hold of his chin with her hand.
Hey, oh, that right there, Harv. Go ahead.
Up flew the man. "Do you want to murder me?" he cried, and gave his wife such a thump that she measured her full length on the floor.
Oh, Jesus.
So I guess she's out.
Yeah, you just Chris Brown to this chick.
That's how they're saying.
What?
She measured her full length on the floor.
Is it too soon?
Okay. So I guess the inference here is that it doesn't say if he killed her. It says she measured her full length on the floor. She could just be out cold.
Right,
I don't know.
True.
But it says here, from that day there was no peace in that house. Now Kidda Grau was to receive her reward from the evil one. But he was so afraid of her that he did not venture to give her the shoes until he stood on one side of a stream while she stood on the other, and then he passed them over to her on a long pole.
Oh, my God.
Because it's apparently sowing dissension between this married couple was so impressive that not only can God's perfect creation, Lucifer, the all-time powerful archangel of creation, not only can he not figure out to sow this ludicrous story between the husband and wife, but Kidda Grau does this, and this makes her so supremely sinister and treacherous that devil's got to stand on the other side of a stream. So I'm just left wondering, okay, I really want to drink with this woman, and why are we afraid of the devil exactly? Why? I mean, the devil seems to like not be aware of things that are immediately apparent to the most dirt-smoking, uneducated hillbilly in any given land.
That was my exact thought from your last show up on here. I'm just sitting here like, all these like every religion has a devil, or an alternate, an evil. That's what kills me. Say, that's what it pertains to, is the devil is this evil, horrible. Oh, I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna get you. This is so bad and everything. So now I don't really have to worry, because all I gotta do is tell him to get fruit out of a tree and carve a cross on it, or
oh God,
or anything. I mean, like, how naive he is.
Good old Jack.
Yeah. And the bit that gets me is this isn't like somebody coming to your house, somebody comes over to your house and doesn't know, because they've never lived in a house where this happened, that you have to jiggle the handle, right, on the toilet, right? It's not like the devil goes walking into Ireland.
Good analogy, by the way.
It's not like the devil goes walking into Ireland and doesn't know, because he's not Irish, how to trick a leprechaun or something. It's not like that. We're talking about stuff that only works on the devil, right? Like, these are traditions and rituals and charms that only work if this one creature in existence ever crosses your path. And the devil's not aware of this shit, right? like this is the message that it's great to be human because we can outsmart the devil. Why that? Well, then I want to be the devil then. If I'm smarter than him, then screw that. I want hell. Man.
Right? You can be the overruler of all.
What is this eternal punishment bullshit? I'm gonna have blackjack and hookers and fire trucks and foam parties and nitrous balloons. I'm gonna have nitrous balloons the size of the Sears Tower, motherfucker. That's gonna be on tap. A laser tag grotto with on-tap nitrous valves, where there's a whole backstage crew running around keeping the balloons fresh, man.
Everybody's walking around with a low voice, but I just shot you, Ted.
No. Well, yeah, and you're like dead, you run around and make it to the recharge station, and there's a nitrous valve there. All right, fuckers. Yeah, man.
It makes a lot of sense, because that's how every exorcism I've heard sounds like.
Right.
Oh Jesus! We're not gonna get it. We're not gonna get it. We're not gonna get into that on this episode. All right, man. Okay, so
yeah, that was just I liked that story because it's like there's a whole weird sub theme developing here to our folklore where the devil is literally the stupidest dude you ever met. Okay, do not fear the devil. Like there's a charm. Like spit through your fingers and like walk around him backwards or something. And I bet he's stuck there.
I would love to fucking I would love to fucking see that dance.
You're right.
See that little big skibbity dance that you have to do to go off and ward off the devil. Because I would do that shit in public transit every time that I have to ride a bus or go on the train or anything like that.
Right.
That'd be fantastic. But I thank God also I don't have to do that often.
Yeah.
I actually learned something riding a subway in Los Angeles with my grandfather that if you just mutter to yourself and just keep on saying, come on, doors open, open, come on, doors open, the only people that talk to you are 13-year-old children that have never been in Los Angeles, that are wondering why you're talking to the doors. Right. And then your grandfather quickly snatches you away and takes you to the other side of the car.
Right.
But yeah, that keeps everybody else from talking to you.
Well, and don't forget, like, if you do that in subways and stuff, one day you will meet like the subway ghosts and the aliens who are just passing through our dimension and shit like that. Like, if you're the one nobody talks to, they'll come to you, one day. That's how you find them.
Why? Oh God, dude. There's a guy named Jeremy Spillers that we got to get on the show, and he's a
dude. We need to do an episode on urban legend, like terror culture, like all of the secret conspiracy.
You talking about like MK Ultra and the
lizard people and MUFON and alien abduction and then the hollow, or we could do Hollow Earth, and they're all out there, man. They're
Hollow Moon.
Yeah.
Oh Jesus.
Yeah.
Fuck.
I love that Hollow Earth. If you think about it, it is actually an entirely scientifically, geologically plausible creation myth, okay? Because they base everything on geothermal energy and the natural processes of the earth, and that's why life can exist down there. Meanwhile, that's just nutty, but there's a goddamn flat Earth society with like thousands of members, dude.
Okay, now
wait. Now I officially
I have to tell Christian this all week. I don't want to get into flat Earth.
I want to issue just one request in the name of this podcast. Richard Branson, you delightfully nutty, stupidly rich weirdo. Why have you not yet funded a show where you will announce a global contest to all flat earthers? I just want you to pay any team of flat earthers to go out and find the edge of the earth. Why are we not doing this as a reality show?
Christian, are you
pay
getting a little hard right now?
Pay someone to find the edge of the earth. Pay some flat earthers, just until they find it, please.
Well, apparently there's a guy that made his own rocket. I don't know if it.
I love that video. That guy is awesome. I watched some of his flights. Guy is a total fruitcake, man. Yes. He is the greatest dude ever, and he supposedly bases everything on NASA science and everything, and he's
got something if he made it on Tosh.0,
I think the FAA or something, they made him abort his most recent flight. Like, he was going to do the big launch where he was really going to get up there and just see how the earth is flat. And
well, that just goes to tell you, man, because he was going to expose them.
Right. Because his video is credible, okay? But Felix Baumgartner, the skydiver who did the video where he went up to the physical limit of the stratosphere and jumped from there. I watched that video. That's incredible. Where he's in a full spacesuit because he had to have oxygen.
Jump, yeah.
And he steps out of the capsule, and he is above the earth, and you can see that the earth is a round thing.
Oh my
and
God.
He jumped from that height and fell for like 8 minutes or something and set dozens of world records. It was an amazing video. No, that guy was on wires in a fucking soundstage, okay? But the Arizona guy or whatever with the homemade rocket who got... There is no justice in America. The FAA should have let that man burn himself up in a fireball launching that rocket, okay? Absolutely. That guy should be able to launch anything he wants whenever he wants.
Oh, absolutely. Because why else would we have a Darwin Award?
Yeah, he needs it. Where is Netflix? Netflix is buying everything. All right, Netflix is the Disney of video streaming.
We honestly should start sending something to Netflix.
Oh my God, dude. You remember, you're familiar. I'm sure the HBH audience is familiar with the Sharknado phenomenon, okay?
Oh, my God.
Netflix bought and produced a rip-off film called Zombievers. It is on
I saw
there.
That.
It is glorious. Dude, we could have made that film and sold it to Netflix, okay?
We could have made Sharknado, dude. Why don't we just rip off Sharknado and be like, it's a hurricane full of electric eels.
Yeah.
It's fucking Bear-nado.
Dude,
it's a barricane.
We need to...
That's right.
Yeah, a barricane.
Could you imagine? Yeah, fuck getting
Yeah.
hit by a goddamn great white shark. Imagine getting hit by a fucking polar bear out of nowhere.
No, we got to come up with something Midwestern or land-based. And see, they already
Momo.
did. They already did. We could.
Snake-nado
You know
on a
what
train.
we could rip off. Okay, we could rip off Tremors.
Oh
Because
my God.
Tremors already did the worms in the earth thing, but
Dibs on
we're
Kevin
from
Bacon.
Missouri, so we've got the New Madrid Fault going for us.
Oh,
so
you're right.
we've got a monster under the earth in Missouri who wakes up and sets off the earthquake that cracks the North American tectonic plate.
The trolls of Scandinavia.
Right. We've got trolls that crack the North American plate by setting off the New Madrid Fault earthquake.
Now, see, I was wondering when we were going to get back to topic.
It needs to be like, so we got to come up with something kitschy with earthquake or tremors or something. See, so it's so what's in the earth? Fault liners. Oh, so we're ripping off flatliners too.
Jesus.
Yes, yes. Fault liners, man. We're the storm chasers that go looking for those monsters,
Oh,
dude.
Jesus
And we
fucking
wake
Christ.
them up and we split the North American plate. Yeah.
Oh my God, I could
Yes.
see Jack Black starring in this.
Right. And when we and dude, if we crack the New Madrid Fault, that's the end for California. San Andreas will just
it's
go
not.
nuclear,
No,
man.
that's the sequel. San Andreas would be the sequel.
Yeah, it'd be
And
the
then we do
aftershocks.
the Yellowstone.
Yeah.
The Yellowstone supervolcano.
We do the aftershock. Oh, the aftershocks set off the Yellowstone supervolcano
Oh,
and
wow.
then cause San Andreas to split. And there
Holy
goes
shit.
Yeah.
Netflix, here we come.
Fuck yeah, dude! It writes itself. It's the formula, man.
And the cool thing is that this is recorded down, so we
do
have
the
this.
we
have
do the
this.
Missouri thing, and the sequel is where the aftershocks from our movie. It's like Halloween 2.
We got to get
It's-
Jason Bateman on this because he's already doing that Ozark
Yes.
show.
The sequel starts on the day the first one ends, and the aftershocks set off the western volcanoes and sever California.
We could
Yes.
actually. We might.
Yes.
It's San Antonio.
San Andocalypse, and then the eastern half of the U.S. breaks off, and finally, fucking Florida just snaps right off of there and
Oh,
goes
thank
and
God.
drowns. Yeah.
I'm so ready
Yeah.
for that. I'm just gonna grab. I'm gonna grab a handful of goats. I'm gonna go live up in the mountains.
Miners 3.
Right.
Pandemonium.
And see all of the pandemonium. See, and I'm telling you, everybody.
Gold. You are dripping in gold
See,
right now, Christian.
everybody, I would say between Nebraska and Nevada, north and south, east and west, in that whole corridor, everybody's going to be gold. Because that's
Jesus.
like the big western plate that'll stick together,
Oh,
And
God. And we just roll on this golden arc to safety,
Right,
As it
right,
takes us over
you
to
know.
the only land that's still around, which is Africa,
Right.
And we just fucking basically live off Goldschlager until we fucking.
Right.
Or no, we would definitely sink to the bottom of the ocean because we all know that gold is a metal and it doesn't float. Otherwise, that whole
but-
scene at the end of Titanic wouldn't have really meant anything.
Yeah, but then you got to remember there's the Pacific Garbage Island, which
Oh, yeah,
that's
true.
out there.
Yeah, that is true.
And
it's
so
only a matter of
both
time until we start colonizing that.
in the case of the Garbage Island and America itself, shit floats. So believe me, we will float. We all float. We all float. Oh man, and I'm going to go on record as recommending. Let's all just take a moment and thank God for the 2017 remake of It,
Oh Jesus!
because they finally
If it
did
hasn't
it.
already been pimped out enough. A
No,
small
they-
independent podcast.
They finally did it as a straight horror movie, because let me be very clear, and I'm speaking from the nerdy podcast that should say this. Yes, Tim Curry was a legend for playing Pennywise, but it wasn't fucking scary. Stop it. It wasn't scary. Tim Curry was the British god of cult cinema, which means it's supposed to be horrible. And it was horrible. All right. And the guy who played the clown in the remake was genius. Okay. He was terrifying, and I loved the movie, and it was one of the rare examples of good Stephen King on screen. So
Christian here actually used to be deathly afraid of clowns. Yeah, I used to fuck with them all the time. And when that clown pandemic happened a couple years back, he actually sold me a gun because he was like,
really?
Yeah, he sold
Is
me a
Christian
gun.
aware that you can in fact call Hertz Donuts in select locations? And you can have a clown deliver donuts anywhere you want. This is a thing.
I thought you were done with it. I thought Stephen King's new rendition of It cured your phobia. I mean, our fucking intro music to this damn show that we are cascading off the side of it is so derailed right now. I don't even know how we can get back to this shit.
See, and that's bizarre. That's opposite. That's backwards for It. Like, Tim Curry made him afraid of clowns, but the real horror, it cured him of the phobia. That's weird. See, for me, it was just the other way around.
Welcome to three white fat guys talk about shit.
Right. Because, just saying, man, like, thank you for It. Okay. The new It was worthy.
It was. It really was.
But what is genuinely disturbing, okay, is the...
Speaking about terrifying children,
terrifying children. Okay, the next story I uncover is honestly disturbing for Scandinavia, and like I was saying, like I mentioned, this is a people that decided to marinate fish in the ground in animal urine and then eat it. So that's just what they do to their food. Okay, so here's this story called The Sacrificial Beggar Child, and it comes from Sweden.
Oh, Jesus.
So the Swedish, okay, while you're busy getting cute late at night in the wintertime with the hot cocoa girl or whatever, and the cute braids and the lederhosen and all that shit, okay? Yeah, you know what? That's in the...
Oops, my bosom has come out of the top of my lederhosen.
Exactly. Sorry. See, now that's in the... That's in
German.
That's
not...
that's in the villages and the pubs where the St. Pauli girl hangs out and shit like that, okay? But out there in the country where they don't have street lights and they don't have, like roads and stuff like that. So the folk tell slightly different stories. So this is The Sacrificial Beggar Child of Sweden. The story goes that there was a town named Dalland, Dalland, Dalland or Daland, that was suffering from a disease that was wiping out much of the population and causing many people to flee. The townsfolk were beside themselves to worry about how to stop it, until an old man from Finland came along with sage advice on how to stop the disease. So this is ominous foreshadowing that the way this story came to a finish is because of Finland. Okay, so blame Finland. Finland is apparently the Canada of Scandinavia now, so we're blaming Canada. Mm-hmm. So the man from Finland comes along. He told them that only a sacrifice would put an end to it and explained that they would need to bury a living thing in the ground. The villagers were desperate to stop the disease, so they took his advice. Which I would wonder if a people who eat food marinated in shark urine would not be smarter about disease, but I guess medicine is not big, so whatever. They began by burying a rooster alive in the ground, but their cruel act failed to produce any results. So they upped the ante by burying an entire goat alive. Unfortunately, this also failed. Feeling there were no other options left, I guess roosters and goats are it. Like, I mean, you know, the animal kingdom is kind of diverse, you would think.
But if it's not going to take a goat...
I mean, maybe you bury one of those sharks after you harvest it for the urine to marinate your fish in, okay? And maybe you bury the shark corpse in there.
That only works with reptilians.
I don't know. So, but after a rooster and a goat, they're kind of stumped. So they decided that the only sacrifice worthy enough to end the spread of the disease would be an actual human being. So now we go all Shirley Jackson, and you never want to go full Shirley Jackson.
You never go full Shirley.
Okay, you don't go full Shirley, because then nobody wins, and you're stoning people in the town square. Or in this case, they set their sights on an orphan boy and offered him bread as bait for the trap. This is why Aladdin took place.
I got some bread down here.
This is why Aladdin took place in Saudi Arabia, okay? Because down there they give bread to children just because. Whereas up here in Scandinavia, they give bread to children to lure them out into the woods, into freshly dug holes, which is indeed what happens.
I mean, like, what do you give kids bread for?
Right. The unassuming child fell for their trap completely and was dropped in a prepared hole. The villagers immediately began shoveling dirt on top of the hapless child. The boy was terrified and tried to plead with them to stop burying him alive, but they continued on their work without mercy. Before long, the job was done, and the child was simply left to die in the hopes he would end the spread of the deadly disease.
Jesus.
Some villagers claimed that they could hear his cries from under the ground, even after his death, decrying the cruel act that had been done to him. So, my takeaway here is that you have to remember that all folklore is... I refuse to believe that it's just somebody, there was ever a folkloric story that was thought up just because somebody thought, okay, I'm just going to write a story. Like, if we're going to go far enough back medievally or before that, I have to think that writing for entertainment or for others' enjoyment, even your own enjoyment, didn't catch on until slightly later. So that means folklore is based on shit that really went on. Like, for instance, if you see that movie, The Witch, that came out a couple of years ago, it's this weird, quiet little drama about this 12th century family or whatever that goes out and lives in the frontier, and then a witch, a supernatural witch, begins to prey on their family. And the point of the movie is not for you to be scared. It's the fact that this family sees life this way. You're looking at the real world, and weird supernatural things happen through these people's eyes. So the point here is, sometime, somewhere in Scandinavia, there was probably, maybe it was an orphan child whose entire family died from some disease.
Right.
And then somebody's remembering this or passing the story along, and eventually somebody decides that the kid came back as a ghost or something, and how would that happen? And okay, I could go for a little embellishment there, but
maybe the kid knew something he wasn't supposed to.
I'm telling you what, the fact that this folklore involves burying a child alive without even a gunny sack. They just tossed that little bastard in the dirt and drowned him in soil until he was dead. And it's like, okay, one of these weird fuckers did this sometime.
Oh,
okay,
absolutely.
this happened.
The thing is, like, there's so many actual rituals that actually happened in Scandinavian culture that were crazy as hell. There was a game that they used to play together that was wildly known, and it was literally they would just swim out into the sea, and they would try to fucking drown each other, and whoever didn't drown to death won, and that was just fun and games.
Right. Or to this day, there is. I'll have to look this up again. I don't remember the name of it, but to this day in England, on the English Isle, there is a town that reenacts a ritual every year as a town celebration, and guys come out and they get dressed up for this with specific accoutrement, which includes, I think, these heads that they make of like deer heads or something like that. Jesus. And they put these on, and they have like mock battles or something, and they dance around and do this stuff. And the town literally does not know what this ritual represents. They know. They know from history, from their written, recorded history, that this ritual happened. But somewhere along the way, they lost the record of why anybody ever did this.
So they're just like,
so this is like,
we just always did it.
This is like, this is something they do because they know it happened, and yet literally no one has any idea why they're doing it.
That's going to be like Civil War reenactors in 200 years. With all the Civil War monuments being torn down and stuff, it's like they're still going to be out in the field in hot wool, and since it's like, why do you do that?
Right. Or even better,
we've just been doing it
for all the heavy breathing heathens, man. I just saw a meme a few weeks ago where this woman was on Twitter or something, and she gave this anecdote. She says she and her like 7 or 8 year old child are sitting at home, and they decide to invent a holiday. They're like, okay, we got to invent a holiday. What are we going to invent? And I think specifically they were inventing a holiday for November. Okay, something instead of Thanksgiving. I'll have to go back and find it, but I like to think that maybe she was like, you know what? Thanksgiving's so white and stupid and fictional and obnoxious that, what if we did something else for November? So she and her child come up with Wolfenacht. Wolfenacht is the festival, the feast and the festival of the wolves in November.
So do they just tear to the forest and eat wolves?
Well, no. She describes this. I suppose I can try and hit the Google on this because it's not complicated. It was this really nice tweet that this woman did, where she and her son came up with this, and so it's a holiday for just wolves, and you celebrate the holiday of the wolves, and then there's special things that you do. I think one night they said that they would go out and like do a howling or something like that for Wolfenacht. And
I'd do that.
And it was beautiful. It was this amazing holiday where, and it's totally legitimate that you would be celebrating wolves and themselves, and
And occasionally they tear apart a small orphan child in the center of town.
Yeah, I could see it getting a little interesting pretty fast.
It's the Scandinavian purge, man.
Right.
Now, now there was a few things that I wanted to get into that I was actually able to find that were pretty cool. About that kind of fit our podcast here. Now you're gonna have to excuse me because I'm not really best with the dialect. So, and I'm sure somebody out there is gonna be the Scandinavian dialect. There is one little ritual that I found called at the stoop.
At the stoop.
At the stoop.
At the stoop.
It's got different ways of being spelled, but the one I got is AETTESTUP. At the stoop, and it's basically they would when people of when members of a village were getting of an age to where they were no longer helpful around the farm and basically didn't have any use, becoming more of a burden than what they were able to contribute, they would march them all the way up to this top bluffs, and they would just jump. They would voluntarily jump off the bluffs or be thrown by slaves or other members of younger members of society, so that way they could preserve the area around them. or preserve the best for civilization. So it's kind of like
so
euthanasia.
It's a sacrificial child. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I hope you brought the victim child.
Yeah. So that's what they like. There's no taking care of your old or anything like that. They would just throw them through the. Actually, they didn't just throw old people from the top of bluffs either. They used to throw deformed babies. If they thought that there was any kind of abnormalities, or if they just thought that the kid was just a little too much, they would just throw it from the top of a. They had 7 days after it was born. Before deciding whether they were just going to leave it out in the woods or throw it off these bluffs with the rest of the old people down at the bottom of the.
Sure.
You can only imagine what the scene of that bottom pit would look like.
And so, disposing of the old people, as I tried to focus in a little more on like disturbing Viking tales or whatever.
And we know you just love killing old people.
Right. Well, there's
sucking up all our Social Security that they already worked for.
So what I run across when I'm looking for dark Norse mythology is this reason why they would totally destroy the old people rather than bury them, because apparently burying the dead is where the Norse eventually developed their whole concept of the Draugr, the zombies.
Yeah.
The zombies of Norse mythology. So these are basically, these could be an early progenitor of the White Walkers in Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Also, this article I located here. This is from I don't know who put this up. Whatever. It's from 2016. It's a writer named May K. Hella. Which I thought this was hella cool.
Pew pew
so,
pew.
There you go. That's your HBH bump there, Miss Hella.
That's our little dad. The
Draugr are the reanimated dead of the Norse myth cycles. It says
for those of you
that the
Skyrim fans out here.
concept of reanimated dead roaming the earth and terrorizing the living is as ancient as the human psyche. It perhaps stems from the human affliction when confronted with grief associated with the strange passing of loved ones into another realm, dealing with the aftermath of death as it results from war, disaster, whatever. So, the Draugr here, going back to the centuries leading up to the first millennium, Scandinavian folklore had the Draugr, which is a plural form of Draug or Draugr. So the plural word we're working with here is Draugar. That is Draugr. That is the plural. That is what you call a horde of these things.
Today's episode was brought to you by the letter D.
The letter D for Draugr, meaning enough of these things to rip you apart, as opposed to the singular Draug, D-R-A-U-G, or Draugr, D-R-A-U-G-R. Okay, so these are corpses freshly laid to rest that had succeeded in escaping the confines of their barrows or burial mounds. So right there is your clue that yes, the barrow wights in Lord of the Rings that Tom Bombadil fought with are Draugr. They are from the old Scandinavian myth cycles. They are reanimated zombies.
And my
Revenants.
My Skyrim character, Kundik, the OBGYN of Doom, fought Draugr all over the continent of Skyrim. And those things fucking suck. Because I was just shooting the dead ones just to make sure that they were actually dead.
Right. So a Draug, which signifies revenant in Old Norse, is found roaming the earth, haunting and terrorizing the living. In essence, it is the will of the living, infused and animated within the shell of a corpse. Draugr are in various states of decomp with black and blue skin. Yet they are dotted with supernatural strength and powers. They are greedy of the treasures piled high in their graves. yet they are lonely in death, removed from the warmth of their previous life and the love of their family. I'm going to take it as implied in these types of stories that the fact that zombies give a shit about eating when they have no system to process it,
absolutely.
and they care about physical company and earthly treasures, the whole thing is that, yes, you're dead and none of that matters, but you still care about it. And
It's
so
an
this
envy
is your
thing.
punishment.
I think it's an envy thing. It's
Yeah,
just like, I want you to be like me. Maybe it's like an OCD.
Well, this is
kind
your
of thing.
punishment. You know, you have to suffer by wanting these things, and yet they mean nothing to you. So I don't know. It's you know.
What does that tell you, world? What does that
Right,
sound like?
right. It get you heathens.
Throw your fucking money in the streets. No,
Yeah,
don't do
you
that.
know, that's it. Kind of gets the heathens breathing heavy. You know, kind of a
bit,
deep,
little bit.
thick. So Dragar can be
I had a couple
summoned.
donuts, and that's making me breathe heavy right now.
Dragar can be summoned or awakened by engraving staves and casting spells. Is it staves or staves? Because I know staves is the plural of the word staff, and it means when you have more than one staff. But staves might be some kind of old word for a verse or a charm or something. So anyway, casting spells using various medium: wood, bone, stones, blood. Likewise, magic can be used to repel the wretched creatures and keep them at bay. So, naturally, as you would assume, there is an entire city full of folklore just for these things. This is the Norse gave us actually pretty much all zombies come from the Norse, from the Draugr.
Oh, everybody, every culture has some kind of zombie. The Indians, I think we might have talked about this last episode. The Indians have the Wendigo. Fucking the Romanians. I guess you could go ahead and say vampires are kind of like zombies because they're undead and they
especially vampire lore. However, whatever, depending on what you look up, there's always some human did something wrong or committed a sin or had some curse laid on them.
Yeah.
There's a book I read where vampires are the descendants of Cain. And that's why they're vampires, because they're cursed as the murderers, you know. And,
now, I came across, when I was doing research, I came across the Draugr too, and I saw this thing saying that you can prevent somebody from being a Draugr if you take like berries and thistles and twigs and stuff, and I guess either line their pockets with it or something like that. Or I think they might have even put it under their nails or something. I don't know. It seemed pretty gruesome but if there's somebody out there, which I'm sure there's somebody possibly listening, that's going to go off and give us some kind of information about Vikings, or I'm sure we said something wrong today and we're going to say worse stuff.
Oh, no, believe us. No, we know. These are the general folkloric themes.
Oh,
absolutely. I mean, the whole, we were saying earlier that the Norse folklore gets so ridiculously specific and complex with like people's motivation for going through a quest. Like if you actually read the stories about why Odin did what he did and how he, you know, achieved wisdom by giving up an eye and stabbed himself and hung on the tree for 9 days. This is an insane opera of tiny little acts,
absolutely.
you know, and it's fascinating the detail that they gave to, you know, what makes a fable work.
Well, and especially if we wind up seeing the decline of human civilization, there's going to be some kind of other kind of, you know, new god that comes up. Another one that one of my favorite lines from Holy, 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 a song that they sing. They say that they'll make a new earth, a new heaven, a new hell, and even a new god better than the one we've got when we can package and sell. You know, that's one of my favorite lines. But there was something that I really wanted to get into, and I know we're running short on time, but there was a few things, and like I said, there's so much research that I got in that we won't even be able to get into on this episode. And we could easily turn this into a two-parter, but what we're going to do is we're going to eventually go off and do another. Man, we
busted.
That's three now for the HBH fucking Halls of Fame there. but like I wanted to get into things about Eric the Red, Ragnar Lodbrok. Now I will get into it a little bit because there's some stories that I wanted to get into. I didn't want to get into it too much because that whole History Channel show Vikings just fucking raped his fucking story so horribly.
Well, yeah.
He was paid not to raid. He was paid not to raid by the French. He had some crazy fucking kids. He named his kids some crazy fucking shit. There was Bjorn Ironside. Yeah. He had Sigurd Snake in the Eye was another son. Right. And then one of his most famous, and we'll come back around to them, is Ivar the Boneless. He had I'm going to say this wrong, osteogenesis imperfecta, which basically when he was a child, he had bones like an old lady. He's constantly.
He was Mr. Glass from Unbreakable. You know, he was like Mr. Glass.
Yeah, absolutely. But it did not keep him away from pillaging, raping, and plundering the fucking northern England and Ireland. Later on, in Ragnar's life, he was eventually killed, or he was eventually taken and killed by this dude. I can't even really pronounce his name. But he was the king of, I believe, Anyway, fuck it. Anyway, kidnapped. He got Ragnar. Decided to kill him by throwing him in a pit of snakes. Okay, right. That's how Ragnar found his fucking demise. So his son, Ivar the Boneless. So this dude goes off, and so it was King Aella of Northumbria. I fucking knew it. I knew it was Northumbria.
Yeah.
And after the Battle of York, Ivar captures and this is one of the only two stories of my fucking favorite Norse tradition, and there's only two accounts of it, and I wanted to get into it. It's the fucking Blood Eagle.
Oh, the Blood Eagle.
Oh, the Blood Eagle.
I haven't heard of the Blood Eagle yet.
I can't do it. I can't do it. I smoke too much.
No, my tenor's gone, man.
Do what?
My tenor is gone.
Oh, yeah, mine too. Man,
like damage. Sometimes people tell me, "Oh, I got this, this decent baritone here, and I'm nice,
voice.
I'm nice and resonant." But I used to love. There was a lot I used to love to sing that I just don't bother anymore because
I heard you sing "Ripple." That wasn't too bad by the Grateful Dead.
Right, I can still manage that one, but I think I still sing. I think now I sing that an octave down usually because it's been a long, strange road, and the tenor tends to give out.
Yeah, when I first started singing, I was a tenor, and now I'm more of like a baritone bass.
Yeah.
So anyway, back to the Blood Eagle. The ritual would be is that they would tie whoever it was down to where they were face down, but they were still elevated. They would take a sword or an axe, and it was said that they used both to carve the shape of an eagle on their back. They would then use the axe or the sword to snap open the ribs off of the rib cage, and they would peel them on the outside of the body, making it look as though they had wings that were hanging out of them. After that,
exposing your organs.
Yeah.
Now we're not done here. They would then take your lungs this was all while you were still alive.
Right.
They would take your lungs out of your body and place them on your shoulders as though that when you were taking your last breaths, it would look as though your wings were fluttering.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, in their tradition, the only way that you can still reach Valhalla while being killed during the blood equal sacrifice is if you can go through all of this torture and not make a single sound.
Yeah, sure. Sure, because, if you pick up a lottery ticket, you might win. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You never know.
Yeah.
And that's how Ivar the Boneless got retribution for killing his father Ragnar.
Right.
Yeah, dude, that was some crazy.
They were definitely the Klingons of Earth, man, because they're up. you get these interminable winters up there in the frozen waste, dude, and these people sit around and life is harsh, dude.
Oh, yeah.
Life is hard up there.
And it's like, man, what can we do today? Well,
Yeah.
You know,
well, the world really. Well, first of all, let's just start with the fact that this world sucks donkey ass, okay?
Yeah.
Because it's always cold and blistering, and it's always gritty here, okay? So that sucks. So I guess we'll just be manly because I'm always pissed off about it. So let's just start doing some really disturbingly, angry shit to vent about it, and
I feel like raping a bear today.
Exactly. Okay.
Let's grab 40 of us, jam us all in a canoe, and let's sail away, fucking hundreds of miles away to another land, and let's just spread the seed as far as we can go. And as a matter of fact, funny story about that. That's why the Irish, with their red hair that we spoke about last week when we were talking about those crazy mud tree people.
Yeah.
Fucking. That's why where the red hair comes from. That the red hair that's so beloved over white, pale Irish women is actually because their ancestors were fucking raped horribly by fucking Viking men
right.
during all these raids. Man, it goes into there's so much fucking detail we could go into here, man.
Right.
The one thing I also wanted to talk to that was pretty fucking crazy is that the women in Scandinavian culture had a lot more power than most other cultures, and they weren't just your stay-at-home wives or anything like that.
Oh, that's right. Or the fact that they stayed at home was actually a badge of highest honor because
there were
the
some
Viking
women that actually went out on raids too.
Well, yeah, there were, but I
Could you
remember
imagine
us.
a
I
woman
remember
raping
us.
monks?
I remember us talking about that, and there was an anecdote I ran across that a Viking would be going out on a journey, and the Viking would march himself with his wife into the town square, and there he would announce to his wife, he would say, "Wife, I am leaving," so that everybody knew. I'm going out on that boat, and I may not come back, but y'all don't fuck with my wife because my wife's got the keys and she's got my shit. Okay, so that's how this works.
That'd be like me walking up to Lena with a fucking pump action shotty and being like, "Chick, hey, I'm going."
Right, like like it's. I mean, that's, and I have no problem with women going on voyages, but it's like even when I'm saying that Vikings were, often very traditional about sexual roles, but even when they were like, no. That's my woman, okay, and that's my woman and
absolutely.
my house, and she's the one, So, I mean, yeah, they were all about a lot of power and.
Oh yeah, dude, yeah. They and this may not come to too much shock, but they were actually really heavily skilled with like medical combat or combat medical blah, 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 being the doctors of the era. They had this thing that I personally didn't find a name for it. I call it the Viking death broth. And when a warrior would come home from a raid and they still had a wound on them that was deep enough, how they would figure out whether or not it was even worth fucking going off and trying to treat this guy and giving him any kind of moss salve or whatever the fucking shit, like horse dung fucking medicine, whatever the hell they had.
Right.
They would fucking give them this broth that was made of different 12 secret herbs and spices, onions and leeks. And after they drank the broth, if they could smell it through the wound, then they would just be like, "All right, well, you can die."
Oh yeah, you're done. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna go tend to this guy and.
Right.
The best part of waking up.
Right. Is dead broth.
Death broth.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, yeah, you learn to, when you're when you learn the best ways to cut people up, and disassemble the body, then eventually you'll begin to sort of accumulate knowledge about how to keep them alive too.
Absolutely, absolutely, man. Now I wanted to get into a couple of different guys while we still had a little bit of time. Oh yeah, we're running out of time. Okay, so we had. Oh, we could get into the Berserkers. Now, a funny little twisted thing about the Berserkers.
Would you like some making? Fuck Berserker! Yeah. Had to be done, So I'll just note that.
Jesus.
You know.
Fuck yeah, man. Snooch to the motherfucking nooch.
Snooch.
So, all right. Now, berserkers were known for just going absolutely fucking nuts to the point to where Christians actually believed that they would fucking worship Satan. The Christians
well, and it was I don't know this specifically, like how serious the Norse were about it, but berserker was, at least at certain times, a specific warrior class.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like that's what you like the Native Americans had a shaman or a medicine man or an old or a midwife.
Yeah.
Like you had berserkers. You had guys whose job it was to go, not only were they definitely the ones who would serve in the battle. And I mean, when there's a battle to fight, this is my army. Yeah. But those are the guys who go insane and they go just charging in there.
Dude, and the process of getting to that kind of mental state, this is what they would do. First off, they would take psilocybin mushrooms.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Always a good start for,
Always
when you know you're going to be the first to meet the swords.
Up.
Give me a whole bunch of fungus. Yeah, yeah.
It's fungus in that cup.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Fungus in the cup reminds me of my old football days, doesn't it? Doesn't it for you, Christian?
Oh,
Nothing
yeah,
like some good
fungus
old
in the
fucking
cup.
nut fungus.
Right.
But anyway, they would get high on shrooms, and then they would go out into the woods and to raid local towns and villages as their totem animal.
Yeah.
So if your totem animal was a bear, you would get all fucking hopped up on shrooms, and then you would mentally turn yourself into a bear, strip yourself naked, and then go raid a town as a bear.
Beware, here comes koala.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So if my fucking totem animal was the skunk, I'd be going to towns, fucking eating people's trash and farting on them.
Right. And people probably would generally leave you alone.
Diarrhea, mushroom shitting.
And these are like the white archetypes of how to get people to leave you alone. Like, today's equivalent would be Richard Pryor saying, when you're freebasing and you set your head on fire and go running down the street, people will leave you alone.
Yeah, which is a more
People
common
get
thing
out,
these days, actually.
But yeah, back a couple thousand years ago, the Vikings were, when you grease up and you get on a head full of shrooms, put on some, war paint and go swinging your shit around and like attacking people and like biting into them with your bare teeth. Yeah, you can get away with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's still parts of the world that you can get away. Any place that anybody says, let's have a Donnybrook, is a place where you can go ahead and get away with that just fine. Canada, Ireland,
somebody will probably kill you eventually, but you'd be
Wisconsin.
You'd be surprised how long in a day's time you could get away with that.
Absolutely.
If you're crazy enough, you got to be berserk enough.
Guys, we have a lot of stuff that we were going through.
Right. But I mean, it is the Norse canon. So, bear with us.
There's so much here, man. There was so much stuff that we had that we wanted to cover. We could easily turn this into a two-parter, guys.
Yeah.
But there's other stuff. We might turn this into a two-parter, but we have other ideas and stuff.
Honestly, if we're getting into folklore, we can do our own American Horror Story show, and like every season can be about one thing. Easily.
Oh, we'll come back to this easily. There's too much stuff to go through. I didn't even get through the other Blood Eagle.
No.
But if I were to go on through that one, then I would have to bring in the fucking the bitch tits of fucking Norway, fucking Eric
and then
Blood
Norse folklore gave rise to the entire era of Germanic opera. Okay, like those guys made a mint on Norse folklore. So, trust us.
Now there is one thing that I do want to talk about before we go. Now, this guy necessarily wasn't during the stereotypical Norse times or that setting. However, he was a more modern Viking. And this was good old fucking shit shank Peter Freuchen.
Peter Freuchen, yeah.
Peter motherfucking Freuchen, one of the biggest badasses of world history.
He was fun.
This guy started the Adventurers Club. Now, we all know about the Adventurers Club. This dude was the founder of the...
So powerful, they brought Chef back, by the way.
God.
Okay,
Yeah,
for those following along. Okay.
Yeah. And I think was it Sean Connery in League of Extraordinary Gentlemen? Wasn't he one of the members of the Adventurers Club?
Yes.
Drinking
I
a mint
think
julep?
So. Yes. With the mint juleps. No. Mint julep is American South. No. They forget what their drink was. Those. No, a mudslide. Because you got to go back to the opening scene of Extraordinary Gentlemen, where there's 6 British guys in safari gear, sitting around an African parlor.
Yeah.
And I can't remember what they drink. If it's I don't know. Maybe it was always a martini. I don't know. Gimlets or something.
Oh man, I could see Sean Connery in that movie be like, I like my drinks like I like my women.
Yeah, right.
Slapped around a little bit and
slapped around, throw it around.
Now I know I've said this before on another podcast. I don't know if it was one of ours or if it was another, but I know that Sean Connery was noted for saying sometimes women just need a good slap, and that necessarily couldn't pass for now times. But there is a famous man.
He said
oh my God!
Well, not only that, Sean Connery is. And I realize this has its time and place, but Sean Connery is the man's James Bond because in Dr. No, the first movie, the movie literally opens with him tearing off a girl's bikini top and smacking her upside the head.
Oh,
okay,
Jesus.
James Bond did that, okay, on film. So just,
Yeah, well, that actually did happen.
Right, so
we just don't talk about that because
let me help you get something off your chest. I mean, it was just like that. I mean, that's how James Bond did it. Man,
we do not support womanizing in any.
Now, no, because why that happened? Because that was the '60s. Okay, that was 1962, and we had just beaten the crap out of Castro and the on the beat. I'm sorry, we
were a little overzealous.
It was the missile crisis. Okay, we just got Russia to back down. Okay, so the Allies were feeling pretty good, and men were having their day, but. No, but that's why Connery was James Bond.
Oh, absolutely. Now, back to what we originally got on the James Bond kick about, Mr. Peter fucking Shitshank Freuchen.
Right.
Now, this guy did 7 tours in the Arctic.
Yeah.
During one of those tours, he fell into a fucking chasm. Chasm. I don't know. It's chaotic for all I know.
Right.
The whole story is just nothing but chaos.
Right.
So
you only get it right on Chanukah.
Anyway,
so he falls into a chasm.
Falls into the chasm of this iceberg. All right. I don't know what he's doing down there long enough to where this happens, but his giant beard of 6'7" tall Peter Freuchen gets melted and then frozen again to the side of this iceberg on the inside of the chasm. So to free himself from it, he just decides to rip it the fuck off.
Right.
There was an avalanche. Yes. Yeah. Okay. So,
but he doesn't have even a pocket knife still on him.
He doesn't have shit on him. I don't understand what the fuck he was doing.
Because
wait a second. He does have shit on him. Literal shit, which Peter Freuchen then has the bright idea of, I'm going to take this here turd. And I don't know how he fashioned it into a chisel, but for some way he was able to fashion a chisel out of a turd.
In the chasm.
Yes. He was able to chisel
in the chasm with the turd is the word.
Okay. Exactly. Oh, God. Right. Try to say that 5 times fast.
Right.
Don't actually do it, Christian. So I'm assuming the only way that he was able to do this was by biting hunks off with his teeth. Or maybe he fashioned it when it was still warm, flattened it out, and then froze it, or set it on the cold side of the hole in the chasm, and chisels his way out to safety.
Right.
Then when he gets back to camp, where apparently he left everything else, apparently he just walked off to take a shit.
Right.
He noticed at that moment in time that, my feet don't feel too well, and a toe or two may have broken off inside of my boot. pulls his boots off. He realizes that he's got frostbite in both feet.
Yeah.
So then, and he's got gangrene in his toes.
Yeah.
So now since he's away from the hole and he's back at camp and he's actually got some kind of tools around, he throws his shit shank off into the fucking wilderness, and then he decides to cut his own fucking feet off with a pair of pliers and a hammer.
Right. See, so now you know why the Norse get to be their own nerd genre culture.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because nobody who appreciates any sanity in life would put up with this shit. And this was only Freuchen's third or fourth time in the Arctic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
He kept going back there after
peg leg Freuchen.
sawing his toes off with a piece of frozen shit. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
He didn't have much to do. I mean, he was a profound author. He was a published writer.
Well, you always got to have time to write.
Absolutely.
Okay?
And he also did win the game show, the $64,000 question.
The what?
The $64,000 question. I believe that was the title of the show. It was a game show that was on back in the day. It was basically like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. And he was
he went on there.
Yeah, he won. He actually
won the show. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was after he chiseled his way out with shit.
Yes.
And cut his toes off.
I don't know
with
if they
pliers.
talked about that on the show.
Yeah.
He cut his toes off with the shit chisel, then cut his feet off with the.
I don't know if he cut the
Or
toes
no,
off
he
with the
dug
shit
his
chisel.
way out. No. He
Did
dug
you
his
read
way out
something
with the
on that?
shit.
He dug his way out with the shit
He
chisel.
dug his way out with the shit chisel and then cut his toes off with pliers and a hammer.
Yeah, because I couldn't imagine, like, if you're back at camp and you're just like, I got all these tools here, but you know what? I've been doing pretty damn good with this shit sickle. But,
Right. Well,
gangrene.
No, but it
coli.
was no. It was a pair of pliers and a hammer. And just to make this more disturbing, let us illustrate for you. How do you cut off your toes with pliers and a hammer? Basically, since your toes are dead and they're frostbitten, you clamp your toe wherever the living tissue still begins. And then you just tack the dead toe off from the other side of the pliers with the hammer. This is what you're doing with your morning. And you only went out to take a shit. And now that you've had your morning shit, you've dug your way out of the ice chasm with the shit chisel, and you have popped your toes off with the hammer. Now it's time to get your gear and go find the North fucking Pole, okay? Now it's time to go to work because it's like 6:30 and daylight's burning.
Right.
All right.
Now we're just behind schedule.
Right. Because you gotta go find the North Pole, get back and live to write a book about it, and then do the game show. Okay. So
Oh my God, man.
yeah, so that's Peter Freuchen. Okay,
That's
so
Peter fucking shit
I can
shank
only
Freuchen.
hope that his Nobel Prize included a fund exclusively for pussy for the rest of his life. Okay, because I hope he didn't even have to leave the house for it.
Oh,
Okay,
my goodness.
because that is
The
not
women-
something on my bucket list.
No,
all
the
right,
women he did
that's
have
not going to
were
happen.
Amazing. They were fantastic. We'll have to get back and we'll have to do another episode on just specifically on Peter Freuchen.
Yeah.
Actually, to be honest with you, I think we talked about the most stuff about him that's suitable for this podcast. I would love
Right.
to. We're going to reference him a lot probably, but but in all honesty, we can't do a full episode on him.
And another one of the things that a lot of people don't realize about Peter Freuchen is not only was he literally, if not the biggest badass of all time.
7 foot tall.
He was actually, like you said, he was in that $64 million question game, whatever.
He was a movie
One
star, too.
of the most brilliant guys ever. Just extremely brilliant. He wrote how many books? It's
A
like
handful.
7 or 8 books.
The Book of the Seven Seas. He wrote that one.
Yeah.
He's done a lot of mapping. He mapped what was like half of the Arctic Circle.
Great fucking survey.
He
Okay, I'll tell you.
mapped it.
So I'll tell you what. If you do a show on him, I've got a perfect book that I can come up with about an American folkloric hero, and it's all true too. It's a guy who made his epic and his fortune up in the Alaskan forest doing logging and stuff. So really great story though. Yeah.
There's a guy. Oh fuck! There's a guy that's similar to that I would want to get into too. But he's actually the son of the Jameson whiskey distillery.
Right.
He's the son of the original founder of that, and there's some instincts of cannibalism in that story. But we'll get onto that in another episode.
Well, they were Catholic,
Yeah,
body of Christ and all that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Some of the greatest fetishes in the world have came from the Catholics.
Right.
And I mean that's one good thing I can say that came out of the Spanish Inquisition is we learned a lot of really kinky things that we now snap one off to every other night. Or
that's because nobody expected it, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nobody expected the Spanish Inquisition. All right. Nobody expected it, and that's where you get your best surprises. Okay.
Oh God! Well, before we go off and start reciting the entire play of Spamalot,
right. We can't do Bonnie Python. Fuck that. That's another show.
That's a completely other show. Yeah. We're gonna cut
this one. That's something completely different. God damn it! All right.
Come on. Oh Jesus! This joke is dead. This is a dead bit.
It's as dead as the dead parrot. Oh my God!
This
Get
bit
me the
is
fuck
no
out
more.
of here! All right, keep on breathing, heathens.
Oh my God! Thank you guys again for.
There's your tagline.
Keep on breathing.
Keep on breathing, heathens.
I like that. It's better.
I want that on my patch. All right, my patch has to say, "Keep on breathing, heathens."
That's gonna have to be our first patch, man. We're gonna. God, dude, we're gonna have to start making like motorcycle cuts. Or
we'll have to do our mouth logo. We got the Rolling Stones and Rocky Horror, and now we'll have to come up with one.
Oh man,
yeah.
All right, so now we're gonna have to get some. We're gonna have to get some music to sign us off with tonight. Do you think we could do that like that weird singing that chicken? Oh God, we're not doing the Kenny G again. Maybe we could.
No, we go. Oh, you guys should roll out to Mojo Nixon every episode, man. Just something by Mojo Nixon and Skid Roper, dude.
Oh Jesus Christ!
They should be the music.
Yeah, we'll see if we can.
Oh yeah, like Elvis is Everywhere. That is an awesome song to just close on, even if if you never chose anything else.
I wanted to
do everybody remember Elvis is Everywhere.
Oh,
man.
Dude.
Yeah,
I wanted to do People Are Strange. Cover from Tiny Tim.
That would be be great. Yep, there you go.
I love his shit, man.
Yeah,
he did an entire album.
I don't think I ever heard him. I don't think I heard him cover People Are Strange. I'm gonna have to look for that.
I'll show it to you whenever.
Yeah.
All right.
Right. All right, right on.
Yeah, absolutely. All right,
Till
guys.
Till next time. Keep on breathing, heathens.
Don't forget to hit us on Twitter. Don't forget to get us at our email, which is we got a Facebook group now. You can go off at Heavy Breathing Heathens Macabrecast. If you want to hit us up on Twitter, it's Heavy Breathing 4, and that's with a capital H and the number 4 at the end. If you want to hit us on Instagram, I think we are HBH Macabre. And I believe that's it. Hit us up, guys, and we'll see you next time.